We are clear to engage, over.
Welcome to the WolfCast, a podcast about the Wolf XM30, where we explore the purpose-built technologies, partnerships, and strategies shaping the next generation of combat for the United States Army. Hosted by General Dynamics Land Systems, this series brings you closer to the digital thread that connects, the open systems that evolve, and the people committed to delivering the power to win. Join us as we break down what's next for the Wolf, what matters, and what it takes to stay ahead. Share with your own pack and stay mission ready. I am excited because today we are talking with two of the professionals on the team who are helping making Wolf XM30 happen. Let's introduce yourselves. I'm Randy. I'm with Land Systems, but please introduce yourself, your first name, what your educational or your professional specialty is, and tell us how long you've been on the program.
Yeah, I'm Reagan. I am a mechanical engineer by education, but I now serve as the engineering project manager for the survivability portion of the XM30 vehicle. I've been involved with XM30 for a few years now. I started actually as a mechanical engineer doing design engineering for our LRUs, and then took a Joe op over to be the EPM for survivability.
Job Opportunity Awareness Program,
yes.
Something we emphasize in Land Systems to help people move around, understand the business better, and to give them bringing your unique talents into a new role. So that
Exactly.
is great.
Yeah.
All right. How about you, sir?
All right. Adam, I've been with GDLS for 2 years, and I've been on the XM30 program the whole time. I have a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering as well. I started as a body structure engineer and moved into the survivability IPT lead role. So all things survivability along with Reagan for the program.
You know, it can't be said enough, but it's something to point out. It's like both of you have been working on this program for years, you and an entire team, right? And the point of why we work on these things for years is because when these vehicles need to work, they need to work.
That's right.
And, you know, that's part of what makes Land Systems stand out is, you know, our vehicles work when they need to work and they're battle proven. And all of those people who have built all those great vehicles, and you are part of this team as well. So let me ask a question, very basic, but it's a great place to start. To a lay person out there who might not understand exactly what we mean by that term, how would you, either of you jump in, you know, what does survivability look like for a combat vehicle?
I think I'll start easy. The survivability is what you think it is. We're trying to bring these soldiers home safe, home to their families. So it's important that when they're in that vehicle, they are able to come home safe. I think that's the basic way to put it. We work hard to make the vehicle safe for the soldier from kind of every aspect, give them the opportunity, you know, to be safe inside and outside the vehicle, and also be able to protect themselves with the equipment we give them. So survivability kind of has a pretty big scope, but I'd say it's up there in the most important. I might be a little bit biased, but we want to bring the soldiers home safe. So.
Outstanding. Yeah, it's one of the legs of the iron triangle, as we like to say it.
Exactly. And just to kind of build on that, that's the simple version of it, right? But you'd be amazed at the different aspects, especially now in the modern times that we're in, what goes into survivability on a vehicle, right? And we've got to make sure every portion of that, every part of that is near perfect to bring our guys home.
See, and that's extremely well put, and that actually segues perfect into the next idea I was thinking of, which is survivability on today's battlefield, the battlefield of today, the evolving battlefield of tomorrow. It's changed so much even in the last 5-10 years, as we can see from real world experience and conflicts that other nations are involved in. So can you talk a little bit specifically about maybe somehow what are some of the challenges that a combat vehicle being designed needs to be able to deal with out there in today's battlefield?
Well, I think it's it's a double-edged sword when you're talking about technology, right? Mm-hmm. And technology makes a lot of the historic ways of surviving a lot less. You have a lot less of an ability to do that. So you have to get innovative with your solutions, right? So you have your basic solutions, which is like your structure and things like that. Then you get into your more advanced solutions, right? With all your technology and different equipment, I'll say, to use to counter different things like UASs, which, you know, if you play Call of Duty, you kind of know what that is.
Drones for the
right,
laborers.
drones for the for the lay terms. right? And so you have to counteracting not just your standard, projectiles and things like that, but all of your modern projectiles, I'll say, that can adapt, right? And so your systems need to be able to adapt to survive that.
Yeah, I think just to add on to that, like you think of, your regular survivability like you'd have in a car, the cars are crash tested kind of thing. Like survivability encompasses the seats, it encompasses the structure, the armor, so everything that you would think of with survivability, but it's also the active protection systems. Also, we have to think about our signature, what we're giving off in acoustic or thermal signature, and managing that correctly is also survivability. So how we show up on radars and stuff like that, like those things that you might not think about as survivability still get covered there. Or Adam mentioned like counter UAS, counter drone strikes and stuff like that.
Right, which you guys have, I think everyone has seen what's going on, right, overseas in both Iran and Ukraine, both, right? They're taking the things they learned from Ukraine and Iran's applying them to their drone systems over there and vice versa. And so drones in particular have become a very necessary thing to both counter and as well as, counter, but also actively protect, right, your systems. So we're learning a lot and we're trying to adapt. I mean, adaptation is probably the most important thing, and to innovate on every survivability system that's available to us, right? And then implementation is huge, right? As we learn new things, we want to implement them as fast as possible, and that's kind of part of that modern survivability tactic is you take information you learn from the world and from kind of experience and things, and you got to get them implemented and into the soldiers' hands as fast as possible.
See, and that's exactly it. It's, adaptability, it's iterative improvements all the time. And everybody, when, there was a period when drones were, the next big thing, in air quotes. If you look at the history, say, of just the tank or the armored vehicle, tactics and technology evolved to counter threats, and then new threats, evolve out of that, and then, it's a back and forth. So it's looking at that in the totality to understand that combat vehicles in general and general dynamics, land systems in particular, this isn't like, okay, we're done now and,
right.
Day's wrapped up. It's like this is a process of continuously iterating these vehicles. Like you mentioned, some of the aspects like reducing thermal signature, reducing acoustic signature. Maybe for people out there who are the non-engineer types or non-combat vehicle types, which I definitely fall into, the basic idea is you can't find it, you can't kill it, right? So, if you're less visible to enemy radar, if you're less visible to thermal detection and all that sort of thing. So really there's a lot that goes into this, and the other interesting point, just to educate folks out there, again, for those non-engineers like me, is you had mentioned active protection versus passive protection, right? Those are two aspects, but passive protection essentially is when, say, an explosive round hits the vehicle, you have something like armor.
Right.
And not being specific, but an active protection system is taking something out before it can hit the vehicle. So again, and getting all those technologies together and getting them to work when they have to work at a very, very compressed timeline is not an easy feat. And that's why you all and the rest of the team have been working on this for so long, because we're going to get it right. And we are getting it right. Super cool. So how about specific to the Wolf XM30, what are we doing in the survivability space that would really interest the soldier out there?
Providing the soldier options, right? Like we keep reiterating here, there's multiple parts to survivability. And with that, we're giving the soldier a lot of options to survive, right? From the passive stuff, which is just the armor, the structure, right? All the way to being able to control drones, right? Controlling the counter UAS systems, things like that. Giving the soldier options to protect themselves and the vehicle, right? And giving them the opportunity to have the highest rate of success, right, in their mission. We're talking survivability here, right, but survivability is just part of the mission. So I think giving the soldier options is kind of really the goal, and then allowing them to make the decisions they need to in real time, right, from both a survivability and mission perspective.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said adaptability. I think that's something we're doing really well on XM30. And I think, I think we're doing that, trying to implement that more overall as a company, and XM30 is kind of leading the way there. One thing that's I think is really cool is we get soldier touch points. We get while we're designing, we get feedback from the soldier directly. And I think, hearing that feedback and being able to adapt on the fly to that feedback helps us a lot, because I have not ever been in the field. And so I learn a lot from that. And I think being able to adapt is the big thing that I think we bring to the table. And I think the vehicle we end up delivering will be adaptable as well.
Which goes back to that implementation standpoint, right? We're getting feedback and adapting to that from the soldier, and then we got to implement it in the vehicle, and then we got to get it out. Because the world is ever changing quickly.
Well, and so much of that, you two hit it. The nail on the head seems to be the phrase of the day. But it's like, part of what separates us as a company and our secret sauce and how we get this stuff to work when it needs to work and to do what the customer needs it to do is customer intimacy. So like soldier touch points, like having former service members who are in these, who can inform that to go, this is great, but what I really need is a vehicle that can do this. Or, hey, I know you meant it to do that, but I'd like it to do that with a little iteration. And that continuous process, again, is how we dial it in to get it right. And, I thought the business about providing soldiers with options, right? That's part of the whole key of this, is that so much of, particularly with today's technologies, again, as the non-engineer in the room, it's like it's really giving that warfighter, giving that soldier in that vehicle the ability to see first, decide first, act first, right? They come across that mission critical information like an evolving threat. They can decide what to do about it, and they can act on it faster than their opponent can. And that's all part of the process of survivability. They accomplish their missions, and we give them the best possible chance to come home safe. So, very cool. Really, we've talked about this, and again, center of everything is that soldier, that dismounted soldier, once they get out of the back. We're equipping them to get them to where they need to be safely, and even before that ramp drops down or the hatch opens up, there are systems in there that can help them be aware of their surroundings and know what they need to do. But really, when you think about it, how does this help soldiers accomplish their missions and come home safe? This survivability piece. I know we've kind of touched on it, but I'm wondering if it strikes you in a broader way.
So you kind of look at XM30 almost like a toolbox, right? And going back to the options things, right? Even once they dismount from the vehicle, they still have options to improve their survivability, right? The systems don't just shut off once you open the ramp, right? It's very much an interconnected system. And, once you dismount from the vehicle, like you said, there's still systems involved that allow them to protect the area around when the soldier is in or out, and different functionalities like that without getting into too much detail on that. The survivability doesn't stop once you get out of the vehicle, right? The survivability stops when the vehicle fails, and the idea is it doesn't fail, right? And get the soldier home safe, whether they're in the vehicle or out of the vehicle. And on top of that, we talk about this idea of the wolf, right, and the wolf pack. And so the XM30 definitely integrates well into a group of vehicles, right, into the greater mission objective, mission plan. So, again, that's talking to other vehicles, right, controlling areas that we can to the best of our ability, increasing our vision, things like that, right? You got, both your recon and your lethal side of things, right? And so that all plays into survivability at the end of the day. And like Reagan said, we might be biased here, but, it is kind of the most important thing because it touches just about every aspect of the vehicle, all the way from drive, shoot, to communicate, right? Survivability is a big part of all that.
And it's great you hit on that because the whole connected sensor, any sensor best shooter is the usual phrase. But the whole idea is that the Wolf XM30 can be part of a larger force where everybody's sensors are connected, so everybody gets a common operating picture, And if a threat emerges that maybe I don't have the resources in my particular vehicle to deal with, somebody else with the correct stuff can be directed to respond to that. Again, the point being see first, act first, decide first, accomplish the mission, and have the best chance to come home. So you're right, survivability is the common thread. Very cool.
Working as a pack, if you will.
Nice. Well, I can't think of a better note to end on than that. We work as a pack, we accomplish great things, and we are just so darn excited to see Wolf XM30 moving forward for the soldier out there. So I'd like to thank both of you for joining us, and we will talk to you soon again on the WolfCast.
Thank you.